Hi, it's John here. At Bings Academy, it's all about helping students to reach their goals. A large portion of our students who watch us and the students that we teach are looking to get into the top selective high schools here in New South Wales. They always ask us, what can they do to make it into one of these top schools, considering it is getting increasingly more difficult and competitive year after year. A lot of what they can do is learning from someone or some place to help understand the ins and outs of certain concepts and topics, but a lot of it is also in fact based on the resources that they use. We get tons of messages asking us what books and resources that we recommend, and in fact about 1 in 3 parents who reach out to us via our website only ask us this. In the past, I've always been on the fence about the specific books that I recommend, as I want to make sure that it is aligned with the new selective exam that was introduced last year in 2021. Not the bunch of outdated books that are currently on the market that parents still purchase today that are no longer relevant, which was for the old exam. While other books out there that are for the new exam may be okay, but never perfect. That had some parts that were good, but other parts that were not. So at the beginning of last year, I decided to make a book after it has been more than a year and a half of constant planning, writing, improving. It is now out today. It is called the New South Wales Selective Test Harder Closed Passages. If you don't know what that is, please feel free to watch my other videos where I go through what it is and what approach that you need to do to tackling these questions. This book caters to students who are already familiar with this type of question and might know the easy to medium difficulty questions for OC, but are looking for a big step up for selective, and especially if they're aiming for one of these highest selective ranked schools. The questions in this book are more advanced and harder than traditional questions, so it is critical for students who are looking to get into these higher ranked schools, as opposed to a school that might be easy to get into or a partially selective high school. This is very exciting, as we only are really known for providing one of the best one-on-one tutoring services here in New South Wales. Hopefully with the introduction and release of this book, we'll also be known for our great books and resources too. I'm going to now go through the process I personally took for creating this book, the different components of this book, and at the very end, I'll talk about how you can get a copy of this if you're interested. So let's start off with the book creation process. For this book, I first started off with identifying what is my core purpose. I did not want to make a book that was for everyone and for every level. Otherwise, depending on who the person is actually doing this book, they will have different levels of benefit. For instance, if I have 10 easy, 10 medium, and 10 hard level questions, and the student that was doing this book only needed the hard questions, they will only have 10 beneficial questions, while the other 20 questions may help them a little bit, but it won't give them the most amount of value. Whereas if the book only had 30 hard questions and the student is only ready for the easier level questions, they would not be ready for it because they would potentially only get benefit from a certain type of question difficulty. That is why the Harder Closed Passages book that I've created is filled with only the more difficult questions, and which is why I recommend it's only for the students that are ready for that next step up and have already gone pretty well in normal closed passages. In terms of the question creation process, the way I created questions for the closed passage was a little bit more straightforward. I would choose a text based on a topic that I had in mind, taking into consideration the word length, sentence structure, and syntax that was used. I would then take out different sentences in specific places, which forces students to use a variety of different techniques to identify what the answer is. I then increased it further by having not just one additional sentence that should not be used, but I made it 2. Some questions were then proofread and attempted by students who made it into schools like Girraween High School and Baulkham Hills High School this year and last year, to ensure that it was very much formatted like the exam and it was comparably tougher than the real test. This would then result in the actual selective exam being a bit easier in comparison than the practice that they're doing in this book, which is what you should be aiming for. We should be avoiding the other way around where you're practicing only the easy questions, but the actual selective test is a lot harder than you expect. In the 2022 exam this year, they had a different type of closed passage called matching headings, which I then did a similar approach for. I made sure that the wording was accurate, the difficulty was on the tougher side, and that it was free of errors, as this type of question was a complete surprise compared to the sample question, as well as the questions from the test last year. I actually had to spend a couple more months on this after the exam in March 2022 this year to create adequate questions with my team to ensure that this book also covers the matching heading questions too. Despite the focus area of this book being closed passages rather than matching headings, I wanted to make sure that this book was not redundant or not going to be useful. Fortunately, the Reading OC test this year, which had the same components as the selective test and the sample paper, showed that the closed had the more traditional closed passage instead of the matching headings, which shows that this book will still be applicable moving forward and it's still going to be useful moving forward. Now, moving on to the different components of the book. I broke down the harder closed passages book in 3 key sections. The first section is strategy and techniques. This is where it starts off with explaining what a closed passage is, a traditional example of what it is, and the approach we recommend personally at Bings Academy for all of our high-performing students. It then lists out each technique that can be applied, which is differentiated between fundamental and advanced level techniques. The same is also done for matching headings. The second section is filled with closed passage questions, which is the bulk of the book. There are 28 units of closed passages, along with 7 units in each of the 4 topics. The topics are animal kingdom, historical events and individuals, geography, and science. With each unit having 6 questions in each of them, that will mean it will have a whopping 168 questions just for the closed passages alone. The third section is matching headings. This is a smaller section as it only appeared in the 2022 reading paper instead of the closed passage that they typically had before. As a result, this had 7 units across a range of different subject material like ancient Rome to bridges and everything in between. With each matching heading having 6 questions in each of them, this is 42 questions for matching headings. Following matching headings is the answers to each of these units. When the closed passage and the matching heading questions are combined together, there are 210 questions that are in this book that are specifically tailored for students looking for that extra challenge and are already comfortable with easy level closed passage questions. I then got the book illustrated by a professional, and you can tell from the layout and images that everything is visually appealing. I personally think this is very important because if you're going to go through a book that is very bland, it makes it even harder for students to find that motivation to even work through that. And come on, have you ever seen an exercise book that looks this good? So this is what the book looks like, and I'm sure that I'll put this on the screen earlier as well. As you can see, it has an awesome image at the front. It says New South Wales Selective Test Harder Closed Passages, and it's geared towards Year 5 and 6 students for the new selective exam. It has a nice blurb at the back which gives a summary of what this book is about. As you go through the book, you'll first go through stuff like the founder's note, then you'll go through the instructions on how you take this book, and so forth, with a bunch of different questions in between. If you're interested in this book, how can you get a copy? Well, as of now, there is only one way, and that is through Amazon Australia. You can literally type this in Amazon or on Google, New South Wales Selective High School Harder Closed Passages. And when you see this book with this cover, that's the book. As of now, it is just under $60 and ships anywhere in the world. This was very important to me as we also teach some students that are currently overseas in India, UK, and in China who do plan on coming back to do the New South Wales Selective Test in Year 6, but as of now, they are overseas. So Amazon allows us to ship anywhere around the world too. This book was printed in premium color interior with the white paper. This allows for the illustrations to have a crisp, vibrant color, and although the book is not filled with illustrations on every page, it does have a nice good look to it and feel to it as well, which I personally think is going to be quite important for students who are going to be working on exercises every day if they're not bored and are enjoying the aesthetic appearance of it. This is independently published, so we are not aligned with any publishers or bookstores who might be overcharging and only focusing on the profits. Our price point allows us to be more sustainable, but is also just fair as well, as this book has more questions than any other similar book on closed passages that are on the market. If you have trouble finding this book on Amazon directly, you can just visit bingsacademy.com, our website, and then it will probably have a new book section probably at the top area. Over time, I would like to slowly release more high quality books with questions that are actually relevant and good, but there's no ETA on any other books, but we have quite a few exciting plans in the background to get more students to be able to utilize and get benefit from these books. If you end up buying this book and giving it a go, write a comment below and I would love to know the feedback. If you think it sucks, let me know as well. All information will be appreciated. If you think it can be better, tell us specifically so we can take it into account the next time around, or if we have another closed passage book in the future. But as of now, since we cannot take on every student as our tutoring is only one-on-one and very limited in terms of availability, we're basically booked out. So the other way for us to increase our impact and help students reach their educational goals is by having these books. And especially for the students who can't afford private lessons or have a spot with us, I think having a book like this will allow them to still get some benefit inadvertently so they can still reach their goals. If anything, and like always, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, write down in comments below what your thoughts are, and I'd love to hear your feedback about this. Thank you guys.